we are gonna build some motor mounts. I'd take some notes. Obviously, we have plenty of room in this one. Stock-ish location. Now, I noticed that these are not centered. I need to write that down. I'll forget the measurement. It will be approximately 14.5 inches. And that's the big question. You are gonna have to shift it, so that's where I gotta be at. I should test fit the motor. Now it's starting to rain. Good thing I'm working inside today. Yeah. More raindrops. There's my old gloves. Pastor Bill, you're just going backwards. It may have to come in and out this hole here quite a few times. I think I'm gonna use a heavier strap. The other one, it was like making like noise like it was gonna go. These are smog heads. All right, I think these are ready to go on. It's going down, going down in there. It's touching just barely touching. Throw some wells on there. Said it's sitting on this. My flashlight somewhere. I thought I just had my flashlight. Cleared fairly well right there by the rag joint. Get this motor back out of here. I even got wells down inside. The bolt hits the mount. This thing is like high class. Definitely need a shower. I couldn't find my pry bar nowhere. It was up on top of the lift on top of the car. Hey, welcome back to Fixing Things. Today, we are gonna build some motor mounts for the Pinto. At least we're gonna attempt. I think we're gonna get it. So what I got me a tape measure and a notepad to take some notes, and we're gonna try to see what we can do. All right. The first measurement I want to take from the motor mount right here to the top of the engine, because we don't want the motor sitting outside the hood, right? So right there, we're looking at approximately 16 inches. All right, now I'm over at the Pinto. And let's say we come up 16 inches there. If we do that, that's the top of the motor mount. The valve cover is going to be at the top of the hood. So that means this motor mount has got to go way down into the frame to get it right. So we're going to need a measurement from this to the bottom of the oil pan. All right. All right, so from the motor mount to the oil pan, we're looking at approximately 5 inches. 5 inches. And that's giving me an air gap of about 1 inch. And we may have to modify that oil pan to make it work. I'm not sure. All right, so obviously we have plenty of room in this one. But we want it right down to where the bolt sits. So we want to get a width. So we're going to come across right there. And we're looking about 15 inches. All right, we put a angle finder on the perch, and we'll see right there, just past 50. I'll record that. Dirty lens. Keeping at the same angle, and we're noticing here it's just past 50 here also. So just past 50. That's dirty as heck. Right at 0. So the truck is sitting pretty level. Yeah, so the truck is sitting pretty level. Another thing to take in consideration is the depth. So what is the depth of the motor from that motor mount? So even though there wasn't much room even in this F-150, it had more room than the Pinto going back towards the firewall. So if we're going from here, we have 13 inches to the center of that hole, 13 inches. So from here to here, if we look down, this side is a little different. I'm not sure why. That's 14 inches. And that one is definitely 13 and a half, 14 and 13 and a half. So, but I'm pretty sure on the Pinto we may have to modify the firewall, because I want to get the motor mounts pretty much in a stock location, stock-ish location. Now I noticed these are not centered, and I don't know if the frame is off-centered or not. Is the frame centered in the car? I don't know. The center of the car is right here, and the hole for the engine is off-centered. This is the center right here. There's the center here. So this ridge is the center. And I don't know if the frame or the motor mounts are centered. I need to figure that out. That's what we need to do. So I need to figure out, are these motor mounts centered in the hole, or do they need to be off-centered a little bit? So that's what I'm gonna try to figure out. All right, so I made a center mark here. That's the center of the truck. And from the edge of this hole here to here is 6 inches. And from here to here is 9 inches. Together makes that 15 inches. I think they got the motor off-centered in this truck to make room for the power steering. Now, I may not have that issue on the Mihal truck. On the Mihal truck. I may not have that issue on the Pinto. So we're going to go over there and look at that. We'll also need to take the depth on the engine to the bolt. As long as we get our 50 degree and our hole at 15 inches, and we got enough room for the headers, and we got everything. If we got it centered, we got it centered. If we don't, we don't. We got to make it work. All right, let's measure this from the bolt to the edge of the transmission. We got about 12 and a half. And I'm not quite on the center there, so about 12 and a half inches from the center. And then we got to add let's say 2 inches to cover the bolt. So 12 and a half, 12, 13, 14 and a half inches. So we need 14 and a half inches to the center of that hole. That'll give us room. That's without, I need to write that down. I'll forget the measurement. All right, so I wrote it down there. From the center of the bolt over to the edge of the bell housing, where the bolts are to the bell housing, will be approximately 14 and 1/2 inches. All right, so I put me a mark. That's my 14 and a half inch mark from the firewall. Yep, 14 and a half. So it's from here, 14 and a half to that. And according to my measurements, I need 17 inches from that same hole to the front of the radiator. Now, we're not going to put a fan on it. We're going to put an electric fan on it. So let's see what we got. So 17 inches gets me right in the center of this cross member right there, which is not too bad. I think we can deal with that. Also, that perch right there is right at our 50-degree mark, I believe. I put my glasses on to see. Yeah, right at my 50-degree mark. So I need to figure out, do I need to center this thing or don't I need to center this thing? And that's the big question. So we know we need 15 inches from center to center. I got 16 from end to end. The only tight spot might be in my rag joint on my steering, but this is a lot tighter than over there at the truck. I think we can center it up a little bit. Just a little bit. But if you notice here, even on the hole on the back, it's off-centered from the center of the vehicle. Center is right about here. And you can see that it's off-centered some. It's off-centered by probably 2 inches. That makes sense. And let's measure over where the motor mount over to the exhaust. From where it sits, it's about 3 inches. Three inches is liberal. Let's go check it out. All right. So it looks like we are going to have to shift the motor to this side slightly. Not as bad as it was in the F-150. I don't need my 3.5 inches. The exhaust manifold will come out right over here in this hole here. So that's good. So 3.5 inches. So if the hole is right in this area, 3.5 inches would be right there. The exhaust manifold is going to be tight on these brake lines. But I think it'll make it. So when we build the motor mounts, we need to make sure that the oil pan now has got enough swoop to get past this linkage. So if I center it up in the hole I have now, it should fit in. Matter of fact, there's a lot of Pintos. There's a lot of Pintos already out there with the V8 sitting down in them. Now they say you can use the Mustang II and they go right down in. And the Mustang II basically has the same front end, same suspension and everything. But the motor mount brackets, you don't bolt right in. But these darn things are pretty darn close. I don't know if the elevation is the same on them. Now the elevation on these things is pretty darn close. I'm pretty sure that's right. Let me see if the Pinto's even sitting. Yeah, we're almost zeroed out. That's pretty darn close. So I think I can weld right onto these things, drop it down, and we want to make sure we have our, from the bottom of the I think we said 5 inches. 5 inches so it doesn't hit, you can't hit, not the cross member, but it can't hit that thingamajig. Let's go over and let's see. So that may be where the problem is. If we're coming over here from the center, it's 2 inches to there-ish. Let's say 2 3/4, or we want to give it a little, let's say 2.5 inches. You need 2.5 inches to clear that. All right, so 2.5 inches. We don't have it. So at 2.5 inches, this has to be the back of the oil pan. Approximately right there. Let me see here. Let's double check it. That's 2 inches. It's close. I'll check for aftermarket pans and see what other people did. From there to there, that's 7 inches, roughly. And if I go 7 inches, the motor will be coming out the roof. Let's just double check it out. All right, I put a board across there. This black mark represents where the bolt is, and I had 2.5 inches to clear it. And it's going to be down further than that, except when I do that with the water line. Daggone it. Anyways, so if I move it out, I'll have 3.5 inches. If I go here, I'll have 2.5 inches to the center. 3.5 inches will get me. I think we're ready to build motor mounts. So I think we're ready to build motor mounts. I'm thinking we can lay a piece of flat quarter inch plate steel on each side, weld it with a hole inside where that motor mount will go right down in it, and we can put a nut on the back side. We can put some stiffeners in it. If I have to modify the oil pan, I'll modify the oil pan. If I I'll look for a new oil pan. But I think we got it. I think we got a good plan going. I need to write down some of these other measurements before I forget them. Like the oil pan distance, but I think we're okay. All right, so here's what I got. I'm gonna get a 1/4 inch plate steel and make a C channel out of it. I'm gonna cut it 3 inches on the inside diameter, and it'll go around the original motor mount and then come out 1 inch past, 2 inches higher than this hole here. So that's where I gotta be at. And then I'm gonna weld it all up. So I got some stuff already over here, and we'll see if we can't get this thing cut up and done. All right, I think I got the motor mounts figured out. Got them made up pretty good. And let's take a look at them. All right, I don't have them welded in place. They're just sitting there. So back you out, it's a little too close. So we needed 15 inches. And they still got to go back some. So that's not bad. They're only clamped in. And I needed to get 5 inches from that, so I can still raise them up some. I think it's going to work. So you need to go back a little bit on each side and raised up a little bit. So I had that 5-inch clearance. And then I needed 16 inches, and they should have that. But I think we got it. It's getting dark now. It's getting dark now, so I'm gonna wrap it up till tomorrow morning. But I think we got a good start. We're gonna raise these things up to the right height and move them back to where they need to be. And I think we're gonna be okay. I should mark them tonight. No, I'll do it in the morning. I'm rushing it. When I rush it, I'm gonna make mistakes. All right, need to go rest my back. They turned out pretty good. It's a lot stronger than what I've seen on the internet. Plus, we can use factory rubber motor mounts for the truck, and I think that would be better. I gotta take me a shower. All right, I'll see you in the morning. All right, it's the next day, and I had some time to think about everything. And what I'm thinking is, I think we're gonna put that old motor back in. Nah. That 302 is going in. But I thought about it last night, and before I do any welding on these motor mounts, and I'm 90% sure I got them made right so it'll work, I should test fit the motor with the motor mounts on the motor, drop it into place, get it setting where I want it to set, and then weld the motor mounts. I think that's a smart thing, because I'm not even sure if the exhaust manifold will fit on this one side. I'm thinking it may hit right here. I may need one that stoops down low. So I think we're gonna push the car. Now it's starting to rain. Good thing I'm working inside today. It's not supposed to rain. Oh, could be a good time for my son. He's got the pushing strength, but I think the motor mounts are right. So I think we'll push the car in. Yeah, and then we'll test fit that motor down in there and see. And I think we gotta go ahead and strip some of this stuff out of the way. This little air restrictive device there doesn't need to be there no more. Some of these other little things that's on the fender firewalls, the battery box needs to come out, and so I could probably do that on another day, but it needs to be cleaned up and put back on. More raindrops. Good thing. I think we're gonna work inside. I sure hope these brakes work. I might have to use the General Lee. There's my old gloves. Man, I've been looking all over for these guys. I'm gonna have to take these inside, wash them off. These are my super warm gloves. All right, let's try this again. Well, I didn't hit nothing. All right, so now we need to get this motor back up in the air. Pastor Bill, you're just going backwards. Listen, it may have to come in and out this hole here quite a few times before we get it right. No, these are not the same gloves. I guess I just like orange. All right. Let's get this thing strapped back up. All right, I got it strapped up this time to a head bolt and to a head bolt. And I think I got enough depth. If not, we'll pull it back out. We'll set it on the ground and we'll give more depth to it. I think we can get it over the thing, no problem. Let's go up. All right, and we'll just take the motor stand off. Man, I think I'm going to use a heavier strap. Yeah, that strap's a lot heavier. The other one, it was like making like noise like it was going to go. And we don't want it to go except up, not down. I got a bunch of stuff I got to get off of here. We're not using this intake or nothing. We may not even be using these heads. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure we're not using these heads. These are smog heads. All right, so now we got to take these motor mounts off. I'm also going to do a little trimming on them. I made some lines on them. I'm going to do some trimming on them. But I need to mount them to the motor so I can drop it down in there. That way I know exactly where. Do I need a different oil pan, or do I need this, or do I need that? Anyways, let's get these motor mounts back off of here. I got the original motor mounts off of the brown log. The nuts. I'll make the modifications and we'll get these things put on the motor. All right, I think these are ready to go on. But these are good for now. I mean, they're working. Okay, on inspection here, I need to get this piece of the exhaust off. Spray some looby-dooby on it. Don't know if it's going to come off one-sided or not. We'll spray the whole thing down. That one came out. All right, it came right off. That's good. All right, one thing I don't like is the motor is twisting. But I think we're going to go ahead and try to let it down some and see if we can't twist it down in there. Just take a look at it. All right. I think the car's got to go back a little bit. All right, I moved the General Lee out of the way a little bit. See if we can move the car back some. I don't want it to roll outside. Let's bring her down a few more inches, see what we got. May have to take the water pump off. That water pump I'm not using anyways. All right, the water pump is off. It is filled up. I mean, that hole is filled up with rust. We're gonna have to clean this block out, or we're gonna have the same problem we had like we with the Haul truck with it overheating. And up here, that's old rusty aluminum stuff. This is a airline. All right. Definitely couldn't just swap this motor. It definitely needs to be taken apart and completely gone over. But let's see if we can't get this thing down in there now. It's going down, going down. We're just bumping on the little bit of the thingy. Whoops, other way. It's going down in there. All right, let's see if we can rotate it. I think I got to shave down the motor mounts. I need to put a strap on here to hold this because I only got my two hands and I can't operate the lift at the same time. All right, so my new motor mounts, I don't know if you can see it, but this one is hanging up on that frame thing, and this one also is going to hit the frame, so we're going to have to take some off so it'll slide down in there. So I'll mark that, we'll lift it up and cut these motor mounts. Let's try this again. something. All right, so I crawled down underneath it, and the back of the down part of the pan, you see here in this picture right here, is sitting on the suspension, which is not a, I'm getting a different oil pan anyways. The back of the motor, the back of the pan is not touching anything, and that's what we wanted, that 5 inches of lift. Actually, there's enough room to drop it even more, but I think we're gonna weld these motor mounts right where they are. So we have plenty of room back here, and we may drop the motor down a little more, but I'm not sure. But we have plenty of room for the bell housing. And we've already discussed we may have to take some of this firewall out. That's not a big deal. It's just metal. But the motor's sitting down in there. So I put the angle thing on there, and we're right at 0. I tested it here too. The car is setting pretty close to 0. We're not touching on this side with the exhaust manifold. And over here on the battery box side, we're not touching either, but it's close. Where's my flashlight? So put the little flashlight on it. You can see the motor mount. It's got plenty of room to weld on it right there. On both sides, we'll hit it top, bottom, and all around. It's not touching on anything. That spark plug boot is pretty close to that brake thing. That's not a problem. And here, it's touching just barely touching the battery tray. And that can be easily removed right there. And we may not even be using these exhaust manifolds, but I don't see why I couldn't. So definitely may have to take out part of this firewall. We'll trace that and see what we got and match it up to the transmission. But that 302 is sitting up in there, and this motor mount may have to drop down a little further. That's not a problem. I think I can probably tap it. Not a big deal. But I think it's time to throw some wells on there. But the big thing is that 302 is fitting in there. And I didn't have to buy no expensive motor mounts to do it. I just made it myself. So I'm probably going to go ahead and let this motor rest as far as she'll go down to weld those things. Tap this motor mount down a little further. That way I get more steel to bite onto. Then maybe put after I tack it really good, put the car on the lift, raise it up, and get a good bead all the way around it. Let's get that done. All right, we got her up in the air, and it's looking pretty promising. So as I said, it's sitting on this arm right here. Now, I probably could lower this thing, but I'm not going to. I need my flashlight. I'm always leaving my flashlight somewhere. I thought I just had my flashlight. Some of the people, they just dent these, and I'm not in for denting it. Let's look at the back side. You can see the exhaust cleared fairly well right there by the rag joint on the steering shaft. And it looks like the exhaust will work right here too. I think what I am going to do though is shim this motor mount up a little bit so that this one here can drop down. Yeah, I got plenty of room to take the nut off here. I do not have plenty of room to take the nut off there. So I think we'll shim this side up first, give it a couple good tack wells, and see what this side does over here. And I think we'll be okay. All right, the welding is done from down here. I can probably get it a little tight, I don't know. But I think it'll be a whole lot easier if I weld it with the motor out. And I can get to it from up on top. It probably won't break even just one side welded, but we're gonna do both sides. All right, I need to get the nuts off the motor mounts. And get this motor back out of here. That's the way it's supposed to work. Now that these mounts are in there, it should drop in there like that every time. Should have marked the firewall. But we got a lot of work we got to do first anyways. We definitely have a V8 Pinto. Definitely a V8 Pinto. Let's put these motor mount bolt nuts and bolts back on here. But you know something? We got a V8 to fit down inside there. She's back on the engine stand now. And I got all the motor mounts welded together. I got wells everywhere. I even got wells down inside. These suckers ain't going nowhere. I mean, I hit wells. We were well digging. That's what I was saying. That's some popcorn stuff right there. But most of this stuff is tight. One of the things I do got to do on this driver's side, I got to cut away a little bit. I'll take the plasma cutter to it. And the bolt, actually I don't want to touch anything, it's really hot. The bolt hits the mount underneath here. So we're gonna, whew, that's hot. We're gonna cut that mount away with the plasma cutter. And that way the bolt will drop down through. This side, not a problem. Also, we have a little bit of tight fit on this side. We're gonna modify the bracket, that battery tray. So it's hitting just on this little corner right there. I'm not worried about that. I could just beat it with a hammer, put it into submission, but I think what I'll do is we'll modify that tray. I could actually raise the tray up a little bit and it would clear it. Just instead of having it way down low sitting on the thing, we'll raise it up 2 inches. Should have plenty of room. It was clear, all my things, but my brake line, I can probably loosen up that one brake line and turn it a little bit. And I think we can, this one here, it's not rubbing it, but it's tight. These wires are close to the exhaust manifold, but it cleared everything. So it was a big success, big success. I may still have to modify the firewall. I ain't sure. I do know this. It's I'll probably have to modify this, take the grill out and cut the stuff, and so I can mount that everything on the inside and find a different way to latch the hood. It may, I mean, right now it got a cable that runs inside. This thing is like high class, man. High class. What are we going to do next on this thing, Pastor Bill? Well, I'm going to tell you. We got to break down that motor. We're going to tear down this motor and see what it needs. And I'm going to get all that stuff ordered on it. I probably have a couple other small videos in between before we do all that, because it's going to take a while to get all the stuff in. And we'll probably make it into several videos. It's inside the garage. I can work at nighttime on it if I want to. That's if I want to. I get off kind of late. I sometimes don't get home till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. By that time, I don't feel like doing anything. I think I need to back this back this Pinto out of here. And remember, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Definitely need a shower. Oh, I was getting frustrated. I needed my pry bar. I couldn't find my pry bar nowhere. It was up on top of the lift on top of the car. I said, man, I need that pry bar. Where's my pry bar? God bless each and every one of you. I'll see you on the next Fixing Things with Pastor Bill. And we got a V8 Pinto. We have the V8 was inside that Pinto. Great time of day. Man, I am stoked. Yes.